So, is this the best solution or is it a non-starter? How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Fox News host Kennedy appearing on the platform and speaking about problems with K through 12 public education. And we know what the problems are. I've done quite a few videos on them. Critical race theory, also known as CRT, also the LGBTQ stuff being taught to very small children, very inappropriate things that will not help them in their actual education, right? If you send the kids to school, what are they there for? They're there to learn, to be educated about some of the most basic things from an early age, especially reading, writing, and arithmetic, the 3 R's, right? That's what they're there for, not about transgender issues and how to be a victim and white man this, black man that. That's not what they're there for, right? Unfortunately, in a lot of public schools all over the nation, kids are being taught this. So Kennedy had a solution. She said, let's eliminate public school. Now, there's quite a few issues with this, and I think Harris Faulkner, also a Fox News host, questioned her about that particular thing. And before I even get too deep into the rabbit hole, let's roll the clip. In this clip, you're going to see and hear what Kennedy said. You're going to see the reaction from the panel on the stage. After we get done watching that, I'll come back. I'll talk about what was said there. Then I'll give you the rest of my 2 cents and my deep detail analysis, and then I'll wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Right to religious speech.
Yes, and the superintendent has to prove that he was ostracizing players and, not favoring them if they didn't participate. So far, what I have seen, they have not proven that. This will be a very important case for religious liberty, but also maybe a great time in our country's history where we rethink whether or not we have public schools. Maybe we should not have the government involved in education at all, so parents and teachers and administrators can make those decisions themselves instead of having the government impose it on them, because it is the public school aspect of this that is creating the legal challenge.
And what do we do with the people who can't afford private? Like, what does that look like? Because each state allots some money, so they would get that money, I would assume. Isn't that what Florida wanted to do?
Vouchers. That's what Florida did.
That's what Florida wanted to do.
Yeah, we could entirely rethink. Okay, I'll tell you why I say that. It's because the two most powerful teachers unions in the country are opposed to Coach Kennedy. They are using their heft and their influence to make sure that he loses this case.
All right, so you saw that, you heard that. Now, there's a lot I want to say. First of all, Kennedy, I'm not really a fan of, just to be real. I mean, what she said wasn't really that bad. I think it came from a good place, but I'm not a fan of Kennedy because what she did to Giuliani, talking about the laptop and it's Eastern European trash and questioning Giuliani that way. I did not like that. So that's just first and foremost, just so you know where I'm coming from. So I'm being totally transparent. Not a big fan of Kennedy. However, what she said made some sense if you did not think about it too deeply. Okay. Just on the face of it, okay, the problem is with K through 12 public school for the most part. We'll talk about some other stuff, higher education and things a little bit later. But the biggest issue for children is public school. Now, she could just say, all right, let's just abolish public school. But that's like trying to eliminate a beehive on the barn by burning the whole barn down. Okay, the rest of the barn is not necessarily infected. You understand? First of all, there's plenty of good schools out there that are public that don't teach all this critical race theory and woke stuff and LGBTQ stuff. There's plenty of schools in the country that don't do that, first of all. Second of all, you have 50 million children enrolled in public K through 12 right now today. 50 million in the U.S. So if you eliminate public school, where are these kids going to go? And again, a lot of them are not going to bad schools. They're not learning about all this weird, ridiculous, woke stuff. They're learning the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic. Then you get higher education, not higher education, we'll talk about that in a minute. You get higher up in your grade school, you learn about history, learn about some more complex things. But you have a lot of well-rounded kids that are going to K through 12 public. Not all of it is bad. So to eliminate it, you're not really thinking deeper than just the surface on Fox News. And if you notice, Harris Faulkner was like, well, hey, how does it look for the kids that can't afford private? she didn't really answer that question, in my opinion. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments. But I don't believe she answered the question. She kind of just skated past that and kept on with her talking points. But that's a real question you need to ask. If you're going to say, let's eliminate this thing, okay, 50 million kids, where are they going to go? They got to go somewhere. Now, some are going to say, well, hey, ABL, they could do homeschool. Well, let's just be real. Let's just be all the way real. Not all parents are suited to be homeschooling parents. Okay, they're just not. Also, there's not always the necessary infrastructure to have homeschool. See, when I was younger, I thought about homeschool as like, okay, you got one kid, two kids in the house. It's their mom teaching them, and then they get to go outside after, like, regular school kids come home. That's what I thought it was. But now you got homeschool kids that are involved in athletics. They got leagues. They go to other parents' houses. They go to particular centers. They just have a different type of schedule than a regular public school kid. But they do a lot of activities. They're not isolated by themselves. They got friends and they got groups they, learn with. Other parents come together. It might be a few parents in the home. They all work together. It's like a school without the school, if that makes any sense. So homeschool has definitely come a long way from when I was a young man. And it's come a long way from what I imagined it would be. So homeschool is definitely an option. However, not all parents are even able to do that, even if they wanted to. You got both parents working a lot of time. I think I saw something that said 75% of women or mothers work. So that's quite a bit. That's 2 out of every 3 out of every 4. So, I mean, with those numbers, how are you going to reverse it to where at least one of the parents can stay home and then chaperone the kids, homeschool them, take them to the homeschooling, the activities, all that kind of stuff? How are they going to do that if 75% of the mothers in the United States work? That's not necessarily possible. Here's what usually happens with kids today. Both parents work, or it's a single parent household. I think only 18% of households right now today in the U.S. feature 2 parents and their child. Only 18%. That's down from 80% back in 1960. Matter of fact, it might be a little bit higher than that. It might be like 30%. Between 30 and 20%, maybe as low as 18%. So that's not very many households that have that going on. But let's just say you're part of the select few that have it. You'd be pretty good. But your parents probably both work. So your parents work. You get taken to school in the morning. You might catch the bus by yourself. You come home. Maybe one of your parents picks you up, or a family member picks you up from school. They take you back. You might stay at your grandma's house for babysitting, or one of these little places, La Petite, stuff like that. You may go there for a while, some other kind of daycare center, and your mom or your dad come get you from the daycare center, and then you go back to their house at about 5 o'clock. You get something to eat, maybe do your homework, probably at the daycare center or at home, and then that's it. That's typical life for a lot of kids nowadays. That's just what it is. So if you eliminate public K through 12, what are you going to do to replace that? Now, I do support homeschool and private, but also with private, you got some weird, ridiculous stuff going on in private schools as well. In private K through 12, there's some weird stuff going on. I don't want to talk about the Catholic schools and what goes on there, so I digress. The point is that you're not necessarily able to escape the stuff that goes on in public and private, although private is much better, 100%. Private and homeschool probably being the best, private being right there. Those are your best courses of action, 1,000%, much better than public. But again, if you can't afford those options, then what do you do? And to go to my next point I was going to make about higher education, higher education is where the indoctrination from public school continues. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just about how much money you spend. Maybe it's that way when you're talking about K through 12, but once you get to higher education, I feel like the more money you spend, the more indoctrinated you are. You may send a child who went through regular K through 12 public in a normie school somewhere in middle America. They leave bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready for the world, ready to become somebody, ready to go out there and live the American dream. You send them to Harvard or someplace or some other kind of just normie school, pay a bunch of money, and they come back an Antifa member or a Black Lives Matter member. That's kind of what goes on. I see it all the time. So you got to be careful about where you go if you're a young person. And if you're a parent, be careful about where you send your kids. Even if it's not public school, where are they going to go? Is it going to be a good private, a good charter? Are you going to have a good homeschool group? Be careful. Like I said, home and private are always much better. That does not mean that public is always bad, but there are some really, 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 really bad public schools to the point where kids graduate and can't read. So as I close, I want to say this. I think Kennedy might have had a little bit of a point in what she was saying, but I think her idea was not very well thought out before she said it. You can't just eliminate public school. I think there should be some reforms, obviously, in the system. And I think that if you can afford private, if you can afford to homeschool, you should do that 100%. And be careful about that higher education, because your job is not done after grade 12. In theory, it is, because the child's an adult. But if you're going to be paying for it, mom and dad, and if you're a young person watching this, be careful, because you don't want to go to a place and go from howdy doody to I'm a Che Guevara or some ridiculous nonsense like that. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about what Kennedy said? Should we abolish public school? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. No, we should not abolish public school, but we definitely need to change it. 100%. We got to change it. There should be some laws passed. You can't have all this ridiculous woke stuff. It's just too much, because really, ultimately, the end goal for all this is to groom and indoctrinate and brainwash children so they're more malleable for whoever wants to take advantage of when they get to be an adult. That's what it is. So whether it be some kind of predator, whether it be some kind of corporation that wants to use them in the way they want to use them, that's what it's about. It's not about teaching your child to be well-rounded and open-minded and able to learn. It's about fixing their mind on one particular path in life and having that just be what they do, and having others take advantage of that particular path that's been set by these teachers, aka indoctrinators. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.